The Koeberg Alert Alliance is concerned about the impact of seismic activity at the Koeberg nuclear plant outside Cape Town. It accuses authorities of not sharing important information about seismic risk at the plant. To discuss this further, we're joined by Peter Becke from the Koeberg Alert Alliance. Peter, very good morning to you. Tell us more about your concerns and what the reality is out there.
Right, well, I've seen recently in the press Eskom saying there's no risk at Koeberg. And obviously that's simply a lie. What we need to do is we need to look at what the risk actually is. We need to look at the consequences, if that manifested, and then balance that against the benefits of keeping Koeberg running. And I think if we look at the potential consequences, we can look at examples that have happened elsewhere in the world, Fukushima and Chernobyl, and we know the potential consequences are huge. So we need to look carefully at what the risks are and what the benefits are.
Okay, and what are the risks?
So if you look at the history of nuclear power, you've got theoretical risks and what has actually happened. So what has actually happened is about every 14 years we've had a major nuclear accident. If you look at the three well-known ones. So that means if you just look at it simplistically, by 2028 we're expecting another major nuclear disaster. So the next question is, where is it likely to happen? Will it happen in Japan, where they've obviously on high alert after their story there? Will it happen in the US, or maybe in a country where the utility has a reputation for not maintaining its plants well?
All right, and the problem in South Africa, what is it? We're next to, the sort of seismic activity that we saw in recent events, the fact it's next to a fault line, are those all contributing factors? And what is it that could push it over the edge?
Right. So any plant like this is built to handle expected situations. And the problem is always what happens when there's an unexpected situation. And when it comes to the seismic risk, what you're referring to there, I think, is the Milnerton fault line. And we've known for a long time that there's a fault line close to Koeberg within maybe 7 Ks, but we don't know exactly where it is. More recent research into it has found that actually it should be called the Table Bay Fault Zone, because there are several faults around there. So it's not very well understood. And in fact, in 2017, Eskom submitted a seismic hazard study to the National Nuclear Regulator, which looked into what the actual risks are. And we asked for a copy of that, but that's been kept secret.
Why?
Which is kind of concerning. And we found that there is quite a culture of secrecy from Eskom, and that is assisted by the National Nuclear Regulator.
And so what do you put the secrecy down to?
If that was reassuring and it showed no risks, why don't they share that with the public?
All right, what do you want them to do now with this information that you've presented them? And surely they must know what you know.
Yes. So I think they should share so we can know what they know, firstly. And this culture of secrecy has to end. And I saw the CEO, Andre de Ruyter, was quoted in the press recently to say the biggest problem he sees at Eskom is a culture of lethargy and complacency. And I think that goes hand in hand with what we found as a culture of secrecy, because obviously if you're being complacent and lethargic, the last thing you want is public scrutiny. So I think that needs to end. I mean, we've done promotion of access of information requests, also known as PIRE, just for short. So we've done several PIRE requests, and Eskom are simply ignoring them, letting them lapse. 2 of them have got recently to 90 days. And what that was asking is, what is the cost of this 20-year extension that they're talking about?
I mean, Eskom, sorry, let me just jump in here. The chief nuclear officer said that the potential risk calculations indicate that such risk is actually minuscule. And he said that the plant had been designed to withstand much stronger earthquakes than what we saw recently in Cape Town. I mean, all right, so here we have 2 opposing sides, so I'm not sure how it's going to play out eventually. But what is it that you want Koeberg to do? Do you want it to shut down? Do you want it to put safer structures in place? What is feasible here?
Yeah. So firstly, that is a more accurate description, that there's a risk which is small. And obviously a word like minuscule has no scientific value. So we'd like to know what that risk actually is. In terms of your statement that it's safe, that there's protection against earthquakes, of course, it was built with the intention of protecting up to a certain level of earthquake, 7.0 on the scale. So we've had one recently that was 6.5. So it's not impossible that we get a stronger one. How it was built in order to protect against those earthquakes is the entire foundation is built on neoprene rubber pads. And those pads are now 44 years old. If they go ahead with this extension that they're talking about, they'll be 68 years old by the time the plant reaches the end of its life. So what state will those neoprene pads be after being close to the sea for so long, for example? And that's just one aspect of the whole design. So to answer your question, what are we saying? We're saying that extending the life of this plant that was designed to shut down in 2024 by another 20 years is taking a risk that is irrational.
All right. Peter, good to talk to you, and it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say in those documents that you say are secret. We'd all like to see them.